Welcome to you guys. I think everybody here knows, but I'll repeat it again. My name's Chloe Ballatori. I am a relationship and communication expert. I'm a graduate of Princeton University and Pat Allen's Want Institute, and I use the tools I learned from her, specifically androgynous semantic realignment, which was her doctoral work, um, transactional analysis, which is the work of Eric Berne. And I use tools that I've created myself because I've been doing this work for over a decade. I'm also over 20 years married. So everything that I am going to talk about and teach you guys tonight is not only based on proven psychological and scientific principles, but I have also gone through it myself and I've shepherded at least thousands of people through it at this point. Um, I found this work at a really low point in my life, when I was really unhappy and I didn't really know what was wrong. And I definitely didn't know how to fix it. But I saw an incredible result in a neighbor, incredible transformation in my neighbor. And where she went from being very lonely and unhappy to getting married and developing a great career in the course of a very short period of time, like 3 years. And so when I saw that, that impressed me. I hadn't wanted to go to traditional emotive therapy. I think that traditional emotive therapy definitely plays a role. And it's nice to go and say your feelings and have them reflected and have someone listen to you. So if you've never had that experience, um, go for it, you know. But ultimately, after years of doing that, I didn't see change in my life. So that didn't really interest me anymore. That's what I like about this work. There's homework, there's tools, you do things, you see changes in your life, you have catharsis. And that is such a great way to live because ultimately, if you don't face your problems, if you don't understand your childhood trauma, if you can't comprehend and face the truth of your past, then you're doomed to repeat it. And life will kick you in the ass with it over and over, and it will get worse and worse until you face it. Avoidance doesn't work. The more we avoid something, the more we give it power. Why am I talking about this? Because when we talk about relationships and specifically problems in relationships, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about unresolved childhood trauma. And when we fall in love and we pick someone to have a relationship with, we usually fall in love with our lesson. And so if you find that you're in a relationship or you're dating and the other person triggers you, yeah, that's right. You may go out of your way not to have that happen. But the psyche and the subconscious will outsmart you every time. Um, and you may have already had that experience if you're in this room. Of thinking that this person is exactly the opposite of my father or mother. And that's why I love them. And then come to find that it's actually not the opposite. Okay. So, uh, when we talk about successful relationships, what we're talking about is balance of yin and yang, feminine and masculine energy. All of us are both. All of us have a feminine side, which is passive, patient, vulnerable. This is the right hemisphere of the brain. This is the seat of feelings, of magic, creativity, spirituality, sexuality. Um, Feminine energy is receiving. Feminine energy is in the world to make it fun, but it's not of the world. Then all of us also have the left brain, right? And this is the world of linear thought, of competitive, conquering, controlling actions, of giving, taking care of, achieving. Okay, most of us are in our masculine when we're at work, and we live in a very masculinized society that is um, devoted to achieving, right? And so sometimes when I work with high achieving individuals, um, they're unhappy because their whole life has been devoted to achieving, and they don't have this other side. They don't have the ability to relax. They don't have the ability to feel. They've lost connection with that. So the most successful relationships, again, are those that are balanced between these two energies. And that includes the relationship that you have with yourself. Ultimately, every relationship is about the relationship with self. So sometimes people come to me and they don't necessarily, like I didn't, know what's wrong, um, but they know that they're unhappy. And so that's where these tools can also be very effective, not just with dating, not just with relationships, but also with the relationship with self. Um, so I help people understand that too. A lot of times when we've had any kind of childhood trauma, and I'm including things that happen to us between the ages of 0 to 12, we get thrown out of balance in our attempt to attach to the people who own the refrigerator, right? The people who are there taking care of us. But later in life, when we grow up and become adults, we don't need to sacrifice our authenticity to attach. Yet, if we don't bring awareness to this pattern, we often find that we are sacrificing our authenticity to attach to others. And that's when we really feel the worst and most lonely, is when we betray ourselves, when we go against our own thoughts and feelings, against our own intuition and instincts, and abandon what we know is best for ourselves. So a lot of this work is um, discovering or rediscovering what your authentic thoughts and feelings are. Um, and there is a big difference between thoughts and feelings. Thoughts are the left brain, right? Feelings are the right brain. And a lot of times people conflate thoughts and feelings. And they'll say something like, I feel like you're a jerk. Okay, so that's not actually a feeling. That's a judgment and a thought. So it's very important with this work, and certainly when you're trying to resolve a conflict with somebody, not to conflate thoughts and feelings. If you're trying to take up all the thoughts and all the feelings, that's an act of narcissism, and the person that you're dealing with becomes a zero, and they have really no voice. And so that's why I always ask you guys, which is more important to you? Do you want your feelings cherished, or do you want your thoughts respected? Everybody wants both. But which do you want more when you're in a conflict? Specifically, when you're in a conflict in your primary romantic relationship. And it's important to know this again because these tools will literally help you achieve balance and resolve conflicts. I have a rubric called the stroke and stand, that is really key to conflict resolution in this rubric. And we'll get into that if people have questions or conflicts that we need to troubleshoot today. Okay, so that's the background of this work. I think all of you guys have been here before, so you know that you can ask about your relationships and your dating. These are my specialties. But these tools also work really well with communication, like I said, conflict resolution, family relationships, work relationships. I also love to hear your updates. You can raise your hand or you can put something in the chat. This is my only free event, so take advantage. And even if you think it's a small question or a stupid question or a question about something I said um, at another point, feel free to ask that as well. I've been seeing a lot about there's a trend right now on TikTok where I've been seeing people posting that for women, as soon as you fall in love, Okay, I'll answer that question in a moment. As soon as you fall in love with somebody, or you have a crush on somebody, you should get into a volunteer job. And that, there's a wisdom in that in the sense that women tend to get really overcommitted, right, in the beginning. And so I think that this idea is coming from that, from protecting women from overcommitting to a man that they just met or that they have a big crush on. Now, if you know my work, I suggest that you date more than one guy at a time. Not have intercourse with more than one guy, but if you're in the casual dating phase, date more than one guy so that you don't get overcommitted. My only thing with the volunteerism, well, I think volunteering is wonderful and is could be a great part of your life. There is also a tendency for alpha women, especially, to be overgiving and overworking. So unless volunteering really makes you feel good, I wouldn't use that as your method of protection from overcommitting. Okay. Okay. So I'm seeing this from you, Anna. How to know if someone enjoying thrill of the chase without any intention? Um, you know, this when you know this work and you can see um if their words and their deeds are lining up, that's one way that you can, here, I'm going to unmute you. That's one way that you can kind of sniff somebody out, if you're having a problem. Does that make sense, Anna? Is it Anna?
Oh, hi. Yeah,
Hi.
so my hi. So my question was, it's before speaking. If someone keeps looking at you and you smile at them and they don't approach you and it keeps happening. Like if
Oh, oh,
someone
oh, oh, oh. That could be somebody who, look, a lot, is just getting up their nerve, right? Or, yeah, it could be somebody who's just enjoying having attention. A lot of times there will be men who are in relationships, but they still go out and flirt, or they sometimes go on the apps. That's why it's important when you're in a relationship, they ask for that social monogamy in addition to the sexual monogamy. But some men, when they're in relationships, will have a foot out the door, and they'll just kind of always be shopping and looking around. So that might be the case. I know that can be really frustrating, especially if you're interested. But remember, the feminine energy is passive, patient, vulnerable. So, be patient, let him do his thing. The reason that we let the man approach first, the man does is the first one to speak. That's the masculine energy. The reason we do it that way is because that's then shows us how masculine the man is, right? What their level of interest is. Um, if we help them too much, we become their mom, and then we kill the chemistry ultimately. And it's also very exhausting for us.
okay, that
So,
makes sense.
I know there's a temptation to be the one to approach first after you've seen him eye contact with you all the time. But if you want to stay in your feminine, you need to wait to let him approach.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Wendy. Hi, Wendy.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome back. How are you?
Okay.
Good to hear
Hi. Yeah.
you.
Good to see you guys. And yeah. So yeah, quick update. So I met someone on POF and um he has a lot of things I really like. Like he's a meditator and he actually considers himself like his calling in life to be a caregiver, which
Nice.
yeah, that could be really great. And like relationships seem more important to him than, I mean, from what I gather, like being in a relationship is just something that he really wants. I mean, he's 61, he's mature,
Right. And
and
men need women more as they get older.
huh, yeah, loves nature and um so we chatted on the phone and he ended the call with saying, um, well, why don't you give me a call when when you want to get together? And I said, me? Why me? Because
Right.
I was thinking
Yeah,
masculine
yeah, yeah,
gender,
of course.
but I just wasn't ready for that. That's all I thought of to say.
That's
And
fine.
he's,
That sounds
well,
fine.
I think he might have been, a little bit intimidated by, my medical condition, like, when I would be available. So I just went with it. I
Oh,
just,
okay. So he was trying to be considerate. Okay.
maybe, I don't really know, but, so I just said, okay. So, he texted me like
So
the
wait,
next,
you didn't say why me? You just said okay.
no, I said, why me?
Oh.
And he said, well, because you've got a lot going on. I had like one thing that week,
Oh, okay.
or maybe it was two things. So, I, let's see,
Okay,
I,
that's okay. You could then say, you know, oh, I'm in a couple days. I'm available Tuesday or whatever. And then
uh-huh,
let him know that you're available and open to his leadership,
yeah,
but let
right,
him make the date.
right, right. Well, I did end up, several days later, I said, want to meet at the Balboa Park Friday, which
Okay.
was, I think, 2 days away or something like that.
Okay.
And he said he had several celebrations, at the end of the week. Let's look forward to, we can plan another time. So there was rain coming up, and I said, okay, how about, after the rain? So in the meantime, actually, I think it was before this. Anyway, he had texted me, like something really like, I hope you're having just a wonderful time or something. And I wasn't. Actually, I've been like, my health has been like many times worse than when I last saw you. Really difficult. And so I just told the truth. I mean,
Good.
yeah, I just said, I mean, he knew about all this, but it was just really bad. And I just said something like, actually, I don't remember, but I was very revealing about how bad things were.
You're vulnerable.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
felt, just telling the truth. I mean,
Good.
my name on the website is Reality Check Goddess, right?
Yeah, right.
All these women
You got
have
to
like
stay true
goddess.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, anyway, so the weekend passed, and so Tuesday came around, that's like 5 days later, and I hadn't heard from him. So finally I thought, oh, I guess he's, still maybe thinking I'm supposed to call him. So I did text him and said, want to chat? We chatted and we talked, I don't know, quite a while, like 40 minutes. And I said, sorry, my brain forgets what I'm talking about. Oh, I said, did you want to get together? Because he wasn't, we were like, it
Okay.
sounded like
Because he
the
wasn't
call.
asking you out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And he said, yeah, yeah, but not today. So so we're gonna meet Sunday, and
Okay, good.
but it just felt, it was a little like maybe he had reconsidered after me giving a dose of reality. I mean, he didn't sound as excited as he
Did you
was.
tell him you were feeling better now and open to meeting? I think
I
maybe that's
did,
just
I
the
did, I
missing.
did.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um, okay. Well, I'm sensing that you don't like it because you have had to ask him, had to
yes,
be the clincher on the plans a couple
right.
times. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, initiator. I mean, I think the call was gonna end.
Right. Okay. So I think there is some truth to it. I think you could
So
tweak it.
what?
I mean, I think that there is some truth to what you were saying, that he's probably hesitant because he doesn't know how you're going to be feeling. And
Mhm.
you know how nervous men are to reach out. So if he's like, oh, I want to reach out to Wendy, but she told me she felt sick. Okay, I'm not going to do it. They're just looking for a reason not to do it, right? Because it's hard.
Really, I don't get that feeling about him because he is mature. He's had a lot of experience. He's been in love. Like, I don't.
Yeah, but his testosterone's dropping off, so he's more sensitive. He's more on estrogen now because he's over 50.
Oh,
So I'm thinking that I'm not saying he's scared away by it because you said he's a caregiver and he's still talking to you and he's meeting you and all that stuff. But if you
mm,
don't want to be the clincher on the plans, then don't be the clincher on the plans. Instead, let him know when you're available. Let him know
I'm
when you're feeling.
gonna write that down.
Yeah, let him know when you're feeling good. That opens the door for him so he knows he's got the green light, but still allows him to take the masculine role and
Right.
make the plan.
Okay. Thank you. One other question. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Um, so we were gonna meet there, and I mean, he's pretty clear. Like, I'm probably gonna have to lay down on the grass at some point. Um, he knows things are quite difficult, but we were gonna meet at the like the Oregon Pavilion there's like a little concert, and I said, I'd love to try, but I may not be able to tolerate the sound or sitting up for very
Mhm.
long. I'm nervous that I'm going to get there and really not be able to sit up really at all because things are.
But isn't it an outdoor grassy area or not?
No, that part is paved with pews, type
Okay.
metal pews, and so I mean, I would have to say, hey, do you mind if we, go to the grassy area? And I can do that. It's just, it is difficult when we're not really doing a task and we're just talking, and it's very one on one, and takes a lot of focus and energy. And I'm just a little bit nervous about it. I should add that he's exceptionally positive and confident, and it's intimidating for me because
Oh,
I'm not.
just relax into it. Just relax.
What?
Relax into it and let him take care of you.
Yeah.
Please. Yes. Yes. And that's what I'm hoping will happen by you not taking control of the date, but by you instead sharing more of your feelings. Oh, I'm feeling
Right.
better now. Oh, I'm not feeling so good.
Uh huh.
I think that will bring out his masculine
Uh huh.
and his caretaking. And I know it's really nerve-wracking for you because you don't know if he's actually going to step up. There's been some good signs that he will, but you don't want to repeat your childhood trauma of needing and wanting someone to be there for you and them not being there. And
Right.
so it feels really scary to go, to not be okay, to tell him you're not okay, and not know if he's going to cherish your feelings. But
Right.
I want to tell you that, first of all, the stakes aren't like they were in childhood. You're now a grown up.
Yeah.
So you can apply that logic to the situation. And you know how it is. If he doesn't cherish your feelings, then you step up with your masculine side and you cherish your own feelings.
Right. I
So
want to, be as strong as I can. I don't want to come across like, I mean, I do have like,
you don't need to be
people on
strong.
my side,
No,
but
you don't need to be strong.
but
You,
if I just come across as totally ill, that's not going to be any fun.
well, that's not the only other option other than being strong. Why don't you just be who you are that day, how you feel that day, and take the pressure off of any way you should be and see how that goes.
That's interesting. Usually I portray myself as much better off than I am just so they can see the side
Oh,
of me that
just give that up.
actually that is animated and motivated and interesting, you know what I mean?
I know, but it's exhausting you.
It is.
It's still a persona. I want you to lean a little bit more into just being Wendy, leading
Okay.
with your feelings, and let's see. I know it's scary, but let's see if he steps up.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Let me know how it goes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Raul, where are you? Raul. Oops, sorry.
Hi, Chloe. So I'm here.
Hi. Hi.
No, I found Wendy's situation very interesting. I found myself in a similar situation with my partner. I went to a photo shoot and she knew it was going to be all the way in Anaheim. And then she waited until I was at the photo shoot to call me and tell me she wasn't comfortable with that. And then I was like, oh, I was telling her, I wish you'd have told me before. I wouldn't doing all the way down here.
Right.
But
But she
I
was
did,
obviously trying.
yeah. And I did cherish her feelings, and I basically excused myself from the photo shoot. I went back home, and
Okay.
the people didn't understand that. So there's an opportunity there, for to find out just where he's at. Maybe that's something he'll want to do for you. But
Exactly. Because
the
men
reason,
get something out of that.
yeah,
Because that's the do good to feel good.
right. So yeah, you never know what decision will be made. But the reason I raised my hand was because my partner sent me an Instagram sign, and I wanted to just cover this point. I know that, like you mentioned, always the three C's of a relationship,
Yes.
compatibility, communication, and all that. But this sign had a different list, and I wanted to get your take on it briefly, if I can.
Okay. Yeah. So just to clarify, the three C's of a good relationship are chemistry, which is a gift from God, compatibility, do you want the same things? Can be tweaked a little, but not hugely, and communication, which is what we can work on the most. Okay. So shoot. You got a different
So
route.
yeah, so she sent me this thing, and I know there's a purpose why she sent this. So it says a true relationship has, and it's a short list here: care, trust, tears, respect, arguments, mood swings, possessiveness, and a little jealousy. And I did, and I didn't quite agree with half of this list. And
Yeah.
so, what do you think about this list?
Okay. So in general, I lean a little bit more towards the concrete ideas when it comes to relationships and a little bit less um on things that are abstract and difficult to understand, you know? Like if we say chemistry, we know what that means. If we say compatibility, we know what that means. If we say communication, we know what we're going for, right? But when I just hear tears or mood swings, that doesn't help me, right? In a relationship. And so I find that those kind of abstract ideas are not that helpful. Um, the other thing is that, and this is, I do know your partner, of course, but I'm saying this regardless of who your partner is. I'm just saying this as you receiving this from a partner. To me, it reads a little bit as um maybe a little bit of as justification or perhaps embarrassment or shame, for um things that have happened between you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was the thing I was trying to like kind of I'm trying to figure out what the overall message is here. And I don't know how to take this other than I can respond and say, well, I don't really agree with half this list, but I don't know if I
I
should
think
even
that
bring
will
it
be
up.
read as argumentative.
Okay.
I don't think you necessarily need to address all the things in that list.
Uh-huh.
Um, you could say something like, "Oh, we've certainly had all those," or if you wanted, but I mean, I would just say something like interesting or haha or, um food for thought, because when you think about like a great relationship, it's not like you're like, oh shit, okay, today I need to really work on my mood swings. Let's do that today. You know what I'm saying? So I just, it's I think I like the list in the sense that I like the idea that relationships aren't always roses, that there are hard times and there are good times. There are days you can't stand each other, and then there's days where you fall in love again. And if you've been in a long relationship, my mentor, Pat, she used to say, some days I would only stick with my husband because his desk furniture looked great with my two oriental rugs, and that's what I had to tell myself, and then time passes and you feel less annoyed, and then you feel more in love again. Because again, you commit to the institution of the relationship more than you commit to the fallible human being. So I think it's, I like the list because it's well-rounded. But I don't like the list because it's abstract and it's not really a goals list, you know? Um, because really happy relationships, um, hopefully I mean, not that you never have fights or anything like that, but that's probably not what people think of when you think of the goal of the relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I guess my part of my question is, um, do you do, does a relationship have to have these components, or can you say, no, I don't want jealousy in my relationship, or is that unrealistic to say that?
Okay, well, everything on that list is different. I do think it's unrealistic to say jealousy because I think that jealousy is part of being in love. If you're not jealous, you're probably not in love. So, I mean, her jealousy is actually a really good sign, you know. Not to the point of it, you know, not to the point of it hurting you guys, but I think, you have to accept a certain amount of jealousy in a relationship. Um, it just can't get out of control. Do you understand?
Okay. Well, it's hard for me to understand because from my perspective, I don't feel like I have a jealous bone in my body. So it's hard for me to
Okay,
relate.
so if you saw your partner with another man, you wouldn't get jealous.
I don't think I would react like how people would react. Maybe I'd be curious, but not mad.
Okay. But if you saw her giving a lot of attention to this other man and telling you she was going home with this other man, even if it was just to talk, you wouldn't get jealous?
Well, I guess I would be wondering what's going on, but
Yeah.
I guess I don't understand jealousy in a healthy way. To me, jealousy has always been demonstrated in a very unhealthy way.
Right. You've had partners use jealousy to restrict your behavior, even behavior that isn't classified as cheating, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why you don't like it and you don't want to be a part of it. Um, but I think a certain amount of jealousy is healthy. I think too much jealousy can kill the relationship. And the line is really at infringing on somebody else's autonomy. So if we took the example of what you said earlier, you went to a photo shoot, you got a call, you came home. You really cherished her feelings in that moment. Um, you did good. What are you thinking about that now? Was that okay?
No, I think it was the right thing at that time, but I don't
Okay.
think that's a thing I can
You can
support.
always do. Right.
Right.
Right. Okay. And was that articulated?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because you guys are kind of on that line there where you like to do things that aren't really classified as cheating, but she doesn't feel comfortable with them. And so you're trying to adjust your behavior to help her feel better. But at the same time, you don't want to lose all your yin activity and the things that you like to do to relax, right?
Correct.
And so I think she's using jealousy as a reason to restrict your behavior. So it's not really the jealousy itself, but it's I don't think it's fully been weaponized, but it's like the threat of weaponizing the jealousy, right? It's the threat of, you were fine, you came home, you made the right decision in this scenario, but you don't want to feel like that's always how it's got to go down. You have to maintain some of your autonomy. And there are probably going to be times when you're not going to be able to cherish her feelings. And that happens in every relationship, by the way. It's not always appropriate, right? You know, I could be, there's this issue of like how much people are responsible for triggering you, right? And so obviously you guys are in an intimate relationship. You don't want to hurt each other. You don't want to make her feel bad. She doesn't want to disrespect you. Um, and yet there are these issues there. So, you know, that's what really has to be negotiated so that you make sure that you don't lose yourself in that negotiation and vice versa. You know, she has to make sure that she doesn't lose herself in that negotiation. So it's kind of an exploration as to whether or not, as to what's going to happen, you know, as to whether or not you're going to be able to cherish every single feeling she has, you know, because probably you're not, you know, and sometimes I give the example of, um, okay, I'm trying to cross the street and my husband jerks me back, hurts my arm because a car's coming, right? And saves me from getting hit by a car. And so sometimes for the good of the relationship, right? He doesn't want me to die. He has to not cherish my feelings in a certain moment, right? He hurt my arm. That didn't feel great. And sometimes, you know, he doesn't have the bandwidth to cherish my feelings, or he doesn't think that's the priority. Like he'll think something else. It's the safety, or he needs to do that, or it's not my right to tell him that, or whatever it is. And then I have to deal with that feeling. Um, and so, you know, that's why when I've worked with you guys in the past, it's really important to look at the whole history of the relationship, because in those moments it's really hard and triggering, and you kind of want to like throw in the towel just because Raul went to a photo shoot and didn't come home, when, you know, if you look at the whole picture, you'll see that Raul's actually done a number of very cherishing things, and nobody bats 1,000, you know. So I think that, you know, and especially in your case, where we've understood, um, that, you know, it's easier for you to cherish her feelings when she's not shaming you. And so I think that's been, sounds like there's been some progress there, so that she's not doing that as a way of controlling you. Um, but there's still, you know, you're just gonna have to see how it goes. You know, there might be times where you won't be able to, you know, do it 1,000%. I mean, I think you're doing a really good job. I think you guys are both trying, and it's going well. But I understand there's a concern about like kind of an existential fear about the moment where you won't be able to do it, you know. Y- It could.
Yeah, I guess because I feel like because it's not a resolved issue, and then I get these little messages dropped to me, and I'm wondering, you know, is it a tactic to justify her position or what?
Right, 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 right. And it does kind of sound like it's a shoring up of a position, but I would just ignore it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, I don't think it's worth engaging about some abstract list. Let's save the engagement for the moment where there's an actual problem. Because this is just like a fantasy about a possible issue that might come up if the mood swings and the tears, you know, it's too much. It's just too messy. It's not like it's sometimes you can get into a cycle in relationships where you guys are searching for problems. Um, there's always discomfort in relationships, and especially when you're changing in relationships and dealing with triggers. And sometimes it's hard to understand if that pain is coming from the pain of change, or is that other person causing you pain. Or even if you know that other person's not causing you pain, there's the tendency to want to hot potato your bad feeling onto the other person so that you don't feel so much pain. Um, that's where I help people really get into the weeds and navigate. So if you do have an actual issue come up where there's a moment, maybe she's, you're caught in a traffic jam and you can't pick her up and she's standing in the rain, there could be a possible any number of scenarios where you wouldn't be able to cherish her feelings. Even just if you don't have the bandwidth in that moment to do it, if you might have to walk out, or whatever it is. Those are the moments where you gotta hope that, your record stands on its own. But if you have to negotiate and you get triggered and you get in a fight, that's why I'm here. But I don't think you guys do well when you start talking about hypothetical scenarios, because that's when she starts thinking her bad scripts start scaring her and your bad scripts start scaring you, and it really becomes like an abstract argument between your ancestors. So let's just try to, instead of like picking a fight, not picking a fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Well, I mean, this last time we just basically did the um say nothing.
Right. You kind of just reset.
And so, but I did notice that she had difficulties with that. So um
Well, this is a really tough situation for her because of her past and everything, but I commend her because she keeps showing up and she keeps trying to face this stuff. And she said, and she did, she fought really hard for you. And I know she wants to have you in her life, but these triggers and these scripts, don't underestimate them. They run really deep. And I'm sure when they come up, she feels like she's at the mercy of them, you know? But all I'm saying is let's just wait for an issue to come up and not argue about ideas about relationships. You know?
all right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes I think you guys get into too much of a theoretical conversation and then that leads to a fight. And it's not even like really about anything. You were willing to come home this time. There may be a time when you're not willing to come home. There may be a time where you can't cherish your feelings, but this time you did. Great. Wonderful. Just carry on. And you're just going to have to accept that she's got a number of fears that aren't personal to you. They're
Mhm.
not about what you've done. They're about her past,
Okay.
right? Because you
Yep.
haven't done anything. You haven't cheated on her, right?
Well, that's the thing. We disagree on the definition of that.
Right, right, right. But you haven't had intercourse with another woman, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'm going with that. Okay. Okay. So yeah, there's a certain wisdom in avoiding certain topics, and I would just avoid that one in a way.
Yeah, I'm doing my best.
Okay. I just don't think those discussions lead anywhere good. I know they're an attempt by her to make herself feel better, but you know, I don't think that's how they're going to pan out if you engage.
Okay.
Okay. Try not to
Thanks.
debate. Your actions speak very loudly. Okay, good.
All right.
Okay. Does anybody else have a question or a comment? I just realized tonight is my 2-year anniversary of this group on Meetup. So, yay! Yes, Lee.
Wow, 2 years ago tonight?
Yeah. Did you come the first night?
I think so, but I thought it was earlier. I thought it was in February or March you started it.
I know, I thought so too, but I just got my thing today, my email today that today was my first.
Wow. Well, congratulations. Happy anniversary on that.
Thank
It
you.
has been 2 years. I really don't have much. I don't have an update. Um,
Okay.
I almost didn't chime in tonight. I just was enjoying listening to everyone's share. And I do feel like I'm in kind of a limbo place. I feel like I'm just not wanting, I mean, not knowing what to do, not, about relationships. I think I've asked you this before about smiling at them. You say to wait for the smile, but
No,
sometimes,
you can smile. You start with
yeah,
a smile.
because I feel like I might have more opportunities for disasters. If I smile, because that's all that ever happens. That's all the only, nothing ever turns into non-disaster relationships. So I know if I
Well,
smile at someone, I'm heading towards at least
that's very
disaster.
scripty. Don't, that's not true. No, your thing is to do the eye contact and smile at the same time and then see if it's reciprocated. And if it's not, you move on. But
Mhm.
it's like not every day, it's not all linear progression. Not every day feels great.
Yeah.
Not every day can you meet a bazillion girls that you're gonna like. Um,
Yeah.
those are the days when nothing's happening. You're doing your flirting, you're doing what you can, you're going out. Those are the days you dig into your spiritual work and you do Lee, and that's all you
Well,
can.
I've definitely been doing that.
Okay, good.
Um,
And then just keep doing the flirts. I know you're really good about going to meetups and you do meet people. You have had women
yeah,
interested in you.
absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not that there will be no relationship ever. There's no reason to give up hope at all. You only started learning this work 2 years ago, maximum.
Mhm.
So you haven't been in a relationship yet with this work. So let's see how that goes before we make a prognosis that no relationship will work ever.
Well, I did date someone for 2 months.
Right. And that was progress. I mean, it didn't
Yeah.
work out, but it wasn't, it was still a worthwhile experience. Don't you agree?
Well, yeah, it was.
It wasn't a painless experience.
It was definitely draining.
Yeah.
Um, but no, you're right, and I'm trying to see the silver lining to it.
Or you don't even have to try that hard, but it's just when you get into a pessimistic stance like that, it becomes harder for you to see who's actually out there. It actually becomes harder. You're handicapping yourself. So
Mhm.
if you can't think positively, just acknowledge that you don't know what will happen, right? Did you predict COVID? Did you?
Actually, I kind of did actually.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you have a sixth sense.
I had a dream
Do
about
you
it.
know who's going to win the election? I mean, what else?
Oh, I
Ultimately, you don't know
no.
what's going to happen. You've lived long enough to know that life surprises you all the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, you're
at
wonderful.
least acknowledge, okay, it seems like everything's shit right now, but I actually don't know what's going to happen next. And sometimes it's just a matter of just trucking on.
That may be too. I think too, a lot of it is just work related. If I can get some, I think that's been more than 50% of my problem
You
is
need to be working more.
just stability, just to be the provider as a guy and to have that confidence and um, that would help a lot, take
Are
away a
you
lot.
taking steps in that direction I mean, I assume you're doing what you can do, right?
I've done so much. Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay, well, then that's all you can do. You give yourself
Hardest
credit for
working
that.
unemployed guy.
Hardest working unpaid person? Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of us.
Um, but no, I'm gonna start smiling more. I mean, I'm going to meetups. I'm thinking about getting involved in a community theater group just to do,
Oh, that'll be fun.
something like that. And
What
Uh,
somebody was it in this group? Somebody was talking about doing an improv comedy, which is also a great way to meet people.
mhm, mhm.
It like really hurries up the intimacy, you get to know each other really well.
I've done that before. It was a very high-end professional group, and I did meet people, but it's a bit of a drive for me.
Okay.
But yes, I mean, I don't know. Limbo is a perfect word to describe what I'm experiencing right now, and it just feels like I'm in no man's land, where it's like I don't know what I want to do. I don't. I've done so many things. I don't know. It's like I'm kind of losing the desire to do things, like just to focus on something that I find joy in doing.
Right.
And I think that's part of the relationship problems are tied to that.
Yeah.
So it's,
Really hard for men when they don't have work that is meaningful. Because again, you're a do good to feel good. So
yeah.
I'm just thinking maybe there's something that you can, maybe like we spoke, like I mentioned in the beginning, it might be a good idea to do some volunteering. Have you considered that? 'Cause
I've done
that
it in
might
the
make
past.
you, that might be a do good to feel good for you.
Mhm.
And you might meet somebody. It might lead to a job as well. I mean, if it at
I've done
all
some,
appeals,
yeah, I've done some in the past and it hasn't uh, done those things, but it's a good practice. It's definitely a good practice. And I'm trying to focus on gratitude and trying to, just um, get my energy levels to a point where I can function again. I think my hope, Chloe, is in a couple of weeks, that 8 week mark you mentioned, it'd be about 8 weeks since the breakup. And I think
Mhm.
I'm hoping in a couple of weeks I'll be reset and clear on what I went through. And
Okay.
this may be part of the detox, part of the hormone reset.
It
I don't
might
know.
be. I mean, sometimes there's nothing to do, you just got to process the bad feelings, the
Yeah.
pain. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means you've just got to process because if you don't have pain, you don't, that's the duality of life on earth. If you don't have pain, you don't have happiness. So
Well, this is
sometimes you just
very
got to go
true
through it.
in the spiritual work. I mean, that's the reason we're here. I mean, is to suffer. And
Yeah,
that
this is purgatory, baby.
so um
But
yeah,
yeah, let's see where you're at. And you know what? Maybe you want to write a hi bye letter. Look, I know you have my first book, right?
I do. And I
Look
did
in the
write
book for
you're
for
talking
the
about
hi
writing a
bye
bye bye
letter.
letter to my ex, to her, or just for the fun of it?
No, to her. Write it to
Okay.
her.
Uh-huh.
Write it to her. Don't send it until you read it to me or to the group or whatever. But that
Well,
might just
you
be,
know
even if
what?
you don't send it, it might be a cathartic experience to do that now.
Well, you know what's crazy? I did write a hi bye letter already.
To her?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
Oh,
I
okay.
already did it. And I think I may have deleted it though.
Okay, because you never shared it with me. Did you?
Um,
Did I forget? I
no,
don't
I never
remember.
did. But I've
Okay.
written down my all of my flaws and all the things I need to work on, and
Well, that's not really the hi bye letter.
that's not a hi bye letter,
No.
right? Yeah. So I guess
And
I'll
again, I don't want you to get so down on yourself, your
yeah.
flaws, and all you need to work on. Just, be compassionate toward yourself.
Hmm.
Gave this relationship a shot. It didn't work out. There were a lot of good things in it. Ultimately, it didn't reach the 51%. Give yourself credit for trying. You put yourself out
She
there.
she was like 78%.
I know she was
But
good, but she
but
she couldn't show up consistently.
right, there was a lot of and I couldn't see her once every couple of weeks, and I just realized it wasn't a
It wasn't
relationship.
enough time for you. Some people would be happy with every couple weeks,
Hmm.
but you're not. So you guys weren't compatible. That's all it is. It's not, you're not failing. It's not your flaws.
Right, right. Well, I tell you what I'll do. I'll reflect on that high buy
Okay.
letter
Yeah.
and
If you want to do it, that opportunity is open to you.
see if that helps.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me that it's okay to be in limbo.
Yes, it absolutely is. And thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And so you guys, if you're interested in the high buy letter, the high buy letter is a tool that I teach. It's for any defunct relationship. A lot of people use them in dating, but people have also used them for friendships and for family relationships. I find that if there's any hope, the high buy letter will resuscitate, will surface that hope, and you'll get a response from the person, or at least you'll get some more clarity. We don't always send them, but we often send them. So if you want to try the high buy letter, do so. I do like to hear them before you send them. So you have that opportunity. But they're very cathartic, both in a practical sense, and then just in terms of like relating to the other person, but also just in a personal sense, like you usually go through something during the process of writing a high buy letter. Okay. Okay, okay, so it's in my book. I don't know the page number, but it has its own section in the book. I see your question, Wendy. Um, but I think there might be some more description of it on my website, or of course you can reach out to me, and I'll send it to you if you can't find it. Okay, but it's basically, let's see, it's 6 paragraphs. One, two, yeah, 6 paragraph letter. And they always turn out, when they're done right, they always turn out really, really moving and beautiful, even if you don't think that you're a good writer. Okay, let me do this last question. Anna, is blocking someone as a sign of weakness if you like them, but they're inconsistent and that's okay? No, it's not. First of all, everybody tonight is preoccupied with being weak and strong. Okay. Just there's no value judgment about being weak and strong. There's times to be weak and there's times to be strong. One's not better than the other. Okay. There's times to be vulnerable and there's times to be strong. A lot of us women put a pressure on ourselves to be strong all the time. And that's what leads to ego dystonia, because being strong all the time, it usually or often means not acknowledging our feelings and suppressing them. So I like being stoic, because being stoic is doing the right thing regardless of your feelings, but you still acknowledge what your feelings are. And sometimes you have to acknowledge that something you must do in the moment doesn't make you feel good, but will make you feel good in the long run. And that's kind of the nuance between feelings and emotions. And I also talk about that in my first book, How to Live, Find Love, and Keep It. So it's no problem to be weak. Is blocking someone a sign of weakness? It's not a sign of weakness. I mean, if somebody's inconsistent, that is often a yellow flag. And then sometimes once you get into the relationship, that problem will evaporate, or the source of it will go away, or it will make itself known. So I do recommend that, you're saying before the relationship even started, that's ultimately, if you want to hash it out with me, we can hash it out. But that's as long as you can tolerate inconsistency. I mean, it's funny. I had a situation with someone where that person was inconsistent over a long period of time, over many, many years. So it wasn't a question, right, of whether or not they were inconsistent. Then I had a situation with someone where um the person was inconsistent in the beginning, and so there were some yellow flags, but later we discovered that inconsistency was more a result of his shyness than it was a result of him, not being able to show up. And so as the couple got closer, he was able to show up in a totally consistent way. So I think that's something that needs to be proven over time. Okay, Cindy. Okay, so I charge $200 an hour. Okay, there you go. The high buy letter, page 26. Sometimes we work in short bursts, so sometimes the smallest increment I usually book is 15 minutes. For the first session, we usually need, at least a half an hour, if not the full hour. But since you've already been coming to Meetup, maybe we could get it done in 15 minutes. I'm all about, as quickly as we can get it done. So I don't try to pad or anything like that. And if you want to set something up, you can reach out to me through my website. Let me put my credentials in here so that you guys, if you want to reach out, you can reach out through my website. You can reach out to me through Instagram. You really can even reach out to me on Meetup, although sometimes that does tend to be a little bit janky. But yeah, okay, let me see. Did I get everybody's questions? I think so. Okay, great. Well, thank you guys for coming. It was another great night of our group, our 2-year anniversary. Woohoo. And as you know, you can find these recordings wherever you get your podcasts, also on YouTube. Although honestly, I'm having a big problem with YouTube right now, like just posting anything today. But hopefully I'll get it up soon. And reach out to me if you've got a question during the week. Feel free. I'll answer it if I can, or we'll address it at the next meetup, or we'll set up a one-on-one, or you can sign up for the modules. I didn't even mention those tonight, but I'm going to be starting those up in a bit. So those are smaller groups, more intensive. Everybody works. If you're interested in that, that link is there too, the module packages. And if I don't hear from you, I will see you back here soon. Okay, have a good night.